Welcome to Swords, Spears, and Arrows with Camille Babin, a podcast that features messages on spiritual formation, soul care, and a book club to help you win the battle within.
Hello and welcome to Swords, Spears, and Arrows. I'm your host, Camille Babin. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. Let's take a look today at the way we view people, or the way we see them. And I mean people that we consider successful, people that we look at and we feel in our minds, we feel like they've accomplished what they set their mind to do. They have accomplished their goals. They are changing even the world. They're changing the industry. They are on top of the field. They're doing the best. They're really doing it. They're on top of the games. And I was thinking about that, and of course it made me think of those high-rise tall buildings that we see. It made me think of even when I moved to the US. That was about like almost 18 years ago. But when I came and, leaving home, leaving West Africa, leaving Cote d'Ivoire, my expectation was that I will be impressed by the buildings, that I will see them, and I will really be impressed. And surprisingly, when I got here, this is not what really impressed me, because we don't have those type of skyscrapers, but we do have tall buildings and all that. And it really wasn't the architecture that amazed me. For some reason, I've even felt like I've seen bigger houses and bigger buildings sometimes in some places that I expect. So I didn't see it. The thing that it really impressed me was the size of the roads. When I saw the highways, that was something that was impressive to me, because I haven't seen roads that wide. I haven't seen so many lanes on a street, on a road. So that was one thing. But the most important thing, or the thing that shocked me in a good way, when I first got here was, I think I arrived in the US on a Sunday, and on Monday my mom said, we have to go get your social security number. That's the first thing we need to get you. So we went to the administration, and the diligence or the speed that they were working with, what they were working, I was impressed, because standing there, giving all the forms, giving all the papers, and for the lady to print something immediately and give it to me, that was very impressive, because I wasn't used to that type of service. Back home, when you do even your driver license, or you do any type of document, you have to expect it to take at least 2 weeks, sometimes a month, or you have to expect, to come back, but you never go back the same day with the document that you went to get. I mean, it's just impossible. It's not even something that was heard of, and I'm talking 18 years ago. And so for me, getting here and seeing that, I was impressed, because I've never seen it. I've never seen it. It was weird. It was different. It was good. But I just didn't know how to put that in words. I was even so impressed. I called my sisters and I told them, I said, here, you get things the same way. And even I remember a few weeks later, my mom said, okay, your green card, you have the temporary, it's for 1 year. And at least by the end of that year, they will send you your permanent resident card. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I have a year to go. 2 weeks later, or maybe less than 2 weeks, at the time I received my, I don't know what I received, maybe a letter, my welcome, yes, it was a welcome letter. I was very shocked to discover that my green card was in the mail. And even my mom she couldn't believe it, and she had been here many years before I got here. But she said the speed at which I received my card was very impressive. And all that, I'm saying that because it's something that I didn't see. But from the moment that I became accustomed to, the moment that it became the norm, after living here for many years, this is the norm. This is my reality. Now I expect to go do my driver license and get it the same day. I expect to even order certain things and get them the same day. I expect, to go some places and be called the same day, or at least in 2 days. So this has become my norm. Why? Because I've seen it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to ask you the question, can you see it? Can you see it? And I'm not talking about the document. I'm not talking about administrative papers. This is not what I'm talking about. But when I go home now, I expect the same level of service. I expect the same expediency. I expect to see people perform certain things with the same speed, that, having the same turnaround that I will have when I'm in the US. But when I don't get it, then I'm frustrated, then I'm disappointed, then I can be mad sometimes. So I'm saying that because when I was home, it didn't bother me because I didn't see anything different. It didn't really move me because that was the norm, that was the reality. I didn't even know that something different existed. I had no idea that you could get your administrative papers the same day. I didn't know, so I didn't expect it. But from the moment I was exposed to this reality, the moment I moved here and I knew that was the norm, automatically I raised my level of expectation. I raised the standard. For me, the standard was no longer waiting for 1 month to get just a simple form. It wasn't having to travel, many distance just to get some information. I'm used to staying home and just go on the internet and find that information. I'm used to just pick up the phone and call even a university and get the information. Back home, it wasn't the same. So I just want today for us to really sit on that and go, because what I'm talking about today is the power of imagination. And sometimes it's hard to imagine. Why? Because we haven't seen it. It's hard to imagine. How can you imagine something that you don't know exists? You have to see it somewhere to be able to say, this is what I want because I see it. And that's why I started talking about the skyscrapers and the buildings and the people that we see, and we view them as accomplished. We view them as successful people, and some of them are in their own ways. We look at them and they become our motivation, they become our inspiration. But today, what I want to take this example of, it's probably someone you've already heard his story, and his name is Abraham, and he's called the father of our faith. And Abraham was living in a town, he was living in a region or in a city with his family, and God called him out. God appeared to him in a vision and told him to move, to leave his family, to leave his kindred, and to just go to a place that God will show him. He had no idea. He's never been to that place. He didn't even know the name of the place. He didn't know where God was taking him yet. He answered yes, and he just went. And at some point during his journey, and while he was just obeying and following God and following the instruction that God was giving him, he was called outside, and the Lord asked him to look around him, to look from the west, to look to the east, to look to the north and to the south and all the land. And he said, and everything that you see, I will give it to you. I will give you to your descendants. I will give you to your offsprings. Knowing that at that time, Abraham had no kids, he had no children, he had no offspring. But God was showing him first what he will give him. He was showing him the lands. He was showing him this place. He said, just look at the territories, look ahead, look what you see. And I want to say today that God will cause you to see before you see it. What do I mean by that? If you don't see it in your spirit, if you don't see it with your imagination, you won't be able to see it with your physical eyes. And so many people have been living a life of mediocrity, or have been settled just because they've been unable to see. So today, my mission or my assignment is to challenge you to be able to use your spiritual eyes, to use the eyes of your imagination, and to stretch beyond what you see with your natural eyes. Abraham couldn't even see his children because he had none. How could he see more? How could he see many descendants living on that land when he didn't even have one child? But by God showing him the land, when you see that much, that much land, I think in your mind or in your spirit, you will have to start imagining the people that can live there. You will have to imagine the things that can be on that, right? It's just as if you go to a farmland and you look and it's desert, there's nothing on it, and you start looking and you will start thinking. And it's easy to think when you have your kids. Then you can say, okay, if you have 3 or 4 kids, you'll be like, okay, this one can have this side, this one can have that side, we can build the barn here. If you love horses, you can say, okay, I'm going to have my horses, I'm going to have my chicken here. I mean, you can just start planning. But when you don't have anything, when you don't have any kids, you don't have anything, you don't even have one chicken, you don't even have one horse, and then you have to come and imagine, to be able to see the cattle, to be able to see the animals, to be able to see the kids even running, you have to use your imagination. So when we look at the buildings and you see the people, what do you imagine? What do you see? And it's easy sometimes to see what they've done. We look at the finished product. But today, I want us to think and to see the journey. I want us to think for one moment about what it has cost them, because we don't want to talk about it. It's easy to talk about what they've done. It's easy to talk about what you see. Even when you see the building, we just see the finished product. We see the result, but we don't see the people that had to stand on an empty land and imagine that building being finished. Imagine people coming into the building and working in the building. People that have great companies that we hear about today, they had to see on paper before they saw it in the natural, before they actually saw people and saw offices, and they saw, clients coming in. They had to see it. And that's really what I want you to grasp today. I want you to be able to see that God is stretching you. God is calling you to see before you see it. God is calling you to go into that place before you get there, to be able to have a mental picture, a mental image of what it is. God used the stars for Abraham. He said, look at the stars if you can count them. So even in the moment of doubt, even in the moment of discouragement, even in the waiting, because he had to wait to see those things come to pass, even in those moments, he could still go back to his imagination. He could still go back to what is seen. He could still go back and see the stars. He could still go back. He could still go back to the sand and imagine, like, as many are the sands, the grain of sand or the dust. That's how many my offspring will be. It wasn't something that was in front of him, but it's something that is seen in another shape. It's something that is seen in another reality. And that's what I feel like God is telling you today. He said, I want you to obtain those things in your spirit. I want you to grasp them in your imagination. I want you to seize them before you get them. I want you to see yourself in the place that I'm taking you, because if you don't see yourself where I'm taking you, you will not stay there. You won't even get there. But even if you do get there, you will not stay there. Why? Because it's something that your mind will not have received. It's something that your mind will not have time to process. And sometimes we rush. We want to see the finished product. We want to see that building. We want to see that company. We want to see, all these things, or even the family and the spouse and all those stuff. But what we don't want to see first is the process. We don't want to think about the process. We don't want to think about the journey. And I want to encourage you today. You have to make sure that you get the mental picture. You have to make sure that you see it, because once you see it, you will not accept less than. The same way I told you, I'm used now to having my papers in one day. I'm used to having certain things in a certain time frame, in 2 days or in a week. So now I just refuse to have to wait for certain things longer than it's supposed to. I'm not saying that I cannot wait, but I refuse to lower my expectation, to lower my standard and accept, just poor service. I can't. Why? Because I've seen something different. And that's what God wants you to see. He wants you to see where He's taking you. But He wants you to understand also that there is a process that comes with it. Don't just see the land. Don't just see the place. Don't just see the people. And then all you see is where they are. But He wants you to see the sacrifice. He wants you to see the long hours. He wants you to see all those different things. And yet you say yes. Why? Because you can see the final product. Because you can see what God wants to do. So it's really, when we talk about imagination, it's not It's not something that comes naturally for everybody. When we talk about Abraham didn't see that land before he went out, before he left his family. And that's what I feel like God is calling some of us today, to just go beyond. He said, go beyond your family history, go beyond your culture, go beyond your education, go beyond your entourage. It's easy sometimes, you just look at the people around you and you don't expect any different. You don't expect to break out of that. You don't expect to go past where your parents have been. You said, it's always been like that in my family. That's how we are. That's what we do. Nobody really reaches that level. But what if today I tell you that maybe the people before you haven't, because they haven't stepped out? What if I tell you today that God is asking you to step out? He's asking you to see that place. He's asking you to see yourself beyond. He's asking you to see yourself outside of those boundaries, because nobody really placed those boundaries but you. What you accept is going to be your reality. If you accept that that's all you have, if you accept that those buildings are way too high for you, if you think in your mind that you can't reach the top, that this is too great for you, this is too big for you, this is too much for you, guess what? It will be. But once you condition your mind, once you condition your spirit, and you even stretch your imagination, and you said, no, I can reach that. I can see it. I've seen it. And that's why I was using the example of people, not to say I want to be them or I want to know, but they just showing us that it's possible. They're just showing us that if Abraham did it, if we see those successful people, they've done it. What's different? It's just the way you use your mind. It's just the way you use your imagination. It's just the way you condition your life. The decision that you make, the words that you speak, what you accept, what you allow your eyes to see. What are you what position are you putting yourself in? What condition do you accept to live? What do you accept even your mind to create? What do you allow your mind to possess? Because if you don't possess it with your mind, you're not going to possess it with your hands. You're not going to hold it with your hands. It starts with your mind. It starts with your imagination. And it's the thing that you speak. It's the things that you declare. It's the thing you create the world that you want to live in. Those people that we see and we call successful, they've decided. I saw a company. I saw, having offices around the world. I saw having people working for me. I saw having those type of houses. I saw myself flying in this type of plane. I saw myself driving this type of cars. I saw myself helping this type of people. So what do you see yourself do? What do you see? Where do you see yourself going? Because that's where you will be going. Because what your eyes, your spiritual eyes, what your mind has seen, what your mind has conceived, guess what? You will receive it. You will live in it. If your mind considers that it's okay for you to get it, you will get it. But as long as your mind said it's impossible, I can't get it, or you cannot see it, then you will not get it. So I just pray today that I was able to encourage you, because it's really a word that I fell on my heart, that God is really breaking those boundaries, is really taking us out of our comfort zone, taking us out of the familiarity, and I feel that strongly for business people. Even in your business, don't set limitation. Don't don't put yourself, place yourself in the confine of what you know today. Expose yourself to something greater than where you are. Expose yourself to something bigger, to something better. Because if you don't see better, you will never strive for more. You will never reach for more. So that's really my encouragement. I pray that it blesses you. And don't forget to follow us on social media, Havila Solutions. And if you have any question, just reach out to us, send us an email. You have a prayer request, we will be happy to pray with you, to pray for you. And we just pray that this week is wonderful, that you'll really let your imagination take you somewhere you haven't been, so that God can really take you to that place. So talk to you next week, and God bless you.
Thank you for listening to Swords, Spears, and Arrows with Camille Babin. If you would like to find out more, check our website, www.havilasolutions.com. or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Havila Solutions. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any episode.